What's up, everyone? We're here with another episode of our NFL season preview. We've already worked through the AFC South. We're now finishing up with the NFC South. If you haven't checked out those other videos, please go check out your favorite teams and get a breakdown of what's to come this season. We've already done the Bucks, the Falcons, the Saints, and all that's left for the NFC South is the Panthers today. We're going to get into them, have the same breakdown, going to go through last season, look at their additions, their subtractions, their strengths, their weaknesses, where they can improve, what their outlook is on the season, how many wins and losses we project, and what's the most intriguing thing, MVP candidates, can they win the division? We're going to discuss all that for each team, and we're going to get right into it. If you do like what you see, please hit that like, comment, and please hit that subscribe button so you can get a breakdown of every team in the NFL before the season starts. Let's get into it. So we're going to start with last season. Last year, they were 5-12. 5-12, okay, yeah, we didn't expect a lot from them. But the problem was they started 3-0. Went 3-0 and then followed that up by 2-12. Not great at all. They fell off. Sam Darnold, everyone was thinking he was a reclamation project after three games. Matt Rule was looking like a great coach. But things fell off rather quickly thereafter. Got bad real quick. It just went right downhill. I mean, CMC got hurt. Darnold he got hurt. He sucked. It was just bad. He was the same Sam Darnold of old. Looking at their coaching from last year, they still surprisingly brought back Matt Rule. I was more thinking that they were going to they tried to rebuild with him 2 years ago. Nothing's come of it. I thought that they may just hit the reset button again and get someone else in there. But they're giving him the green light again for at least one more year. It's probably his last chance. They got rid of Joe Brady. He was supposed to be the next phenom OC from LSU. Brought him in, did absolutely nothing with this offense. So they bring in someone else that I don't even know is even any better. The Giants have sucked for many years, and they bring in Ben McAdoo. Has a new hairstyle, probably the same playbook. So don't expect much from the offense as far as variability, ability to get down the field. We'll see, but I don't have high hopes for him being the OC of this team. So let's get into the main bulk of this video, which is going to be the additions and the losses and strengths and weaknesses. So as far as looking at their additions, we got the depth chart right here. Tight end, they brought in Ian Thomas, been in the league a few years, signed him to a re-signed him to a 3-year extension. They still got Tommy Tremble as their number one option at tight end after they let Dan Arnold go to the Jags. They traded him last season. I mean, Tommy Tremble, he was okay at best last year. I mean, his season statistics, he had 20 receptions for 180 yards and 1 TD. I mean, some offenses don't expect a lot as far as receiving from their tight end position, but you got to expect more than that, especially from your tight end one. So still got those two, not much to talk about there. But they did sign DJ Moore to a 4-year extension, which was their best offseason move by far. Locking him up, keeping him under contract, not letting him go anywhere. He's one of the top wide receivers, one of the young receivers in the NFL, who has been great year in and year out. Just imagine if he had a quarterback that was semi-competent to throw the ball to him. He's guaranteeing you 1,000 yards no matter who's throwing to him. They had Sam Darnold, they had PJ Walker, they had Cam Newton, and this guy's still putting up yardage. So it was a solid move to bring him back for sure. Look at their offensive line. They definitely tried to rebuild it from here. They brought in Austin Corbett from the Rams, part of that Super Bowl team. He replaces John Miller, which was nothing to speak about. Nothing great for sure. He's tough, physical, nasty. Just what they need, especially with this run game, which we'll get into in just a second. They also brought in Bradley Bozeman at center, a great pickup for them. Brought him in from the Ravens. The Ravens let him go after. He was probably one of their better offensive linemen, but he's definitely going to improve this Panthers O-line for sure. It was so bad last year, and you got CMC, one of the best backs in the league, so you definitely want to give him some lanes to run through. Like I said, they revamped it. Not only did they bring those two in, they also have Taylor Moton, who's one of the best tackles in the league. But then their first pick at 6, they they drafted Ike Ekwonu, and I mean he may have been the best tackle in the draft. I mean between he and Evan Neal, I mean Charles Cross was also in that conversation a little bit, but Ekwonu was possibly the best one. He had a 91.6 PFF grade, which was the best at left tackle for any Power 5 tackle in college last year. I mean, if you watch the tape on him, he's just going to play bully ball, which is good for them. They got this real rough offensive line, but the thing is with Ekwonu is that he's just as agile as he is rough. So he's gonna. They're hoping he's gonna be a franchise cornerstone at that left tackle position. Maybe make Sam Darnold look semi-competent, but we'll see what happens. They also brought in Dante Foreman. They're looking like they're going to go maybe a little bit more RBBC, running back by committee this year. I mean, McCaffrey has had injury issues for the last 2 years. They drafted Hubbard last year in the 4th round. He got plenty of playing time, looks solid. But they bring in Dante Foreman. You know, he's probably going to be their short yardage back. You know, a lot of those 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, he's going to be in the game. Like I said, I look to see a lot of running back by committee this year for sure with this team, with this running back room that they have. Look at the defense. They brought in Matt Ioannidis. He was with the Redskins. He was with San Francisco last. Well, no, is he? I'm not sure. Regardless, brought him in, give him a little bit more depth at that defensive line. He's probably going to be a day one starter, but his problem is injuries. He's lost 24 games over the last 6 seasons. Sorry. So that's 4 games a year that he's missing. You know, if he's healthy, he could be a solid contributor for this defense. They weren't great last year. They were horrible on the offensive side of the ball. Wasn't much better on defense. So, I mean, anything can get them improvement. They'll take it for sure. Another key addition that they brought in on the defense is Xavier Woods from Minnesota. Bring him in at the full safety position. They had a lot of issues last year as far as communication on this team, especially in the secondary. So they bring in Xavier Woods, who's he's known for being one of the best communicators as far as leading that secondary. So it's going to be a improvement for them for sure on the back end of that defense. It also allows them to move Jeremy Chin back to strong safety. And, you know, I say back to strong safety, but he's going to be playing more in the box, which is more of what he did as a rookie. He fell off some last year trying to move around compared to where he used to be. But putting him back down in the box is definitely going to help his game, I do feel. Probably going to have a bounce back year in his 3rd year. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with him for sure. So now we're getting to their losses. I mean, not much to lose whenever they weren't that good to begin with. As far as their losses, lost Stephon Gilmore. I mean, I really don't know why they traded for him to begin with. They knew that they were not a playoff team. They gave up draft picks to the Patriots, probably higher than what they should have. They gave up draft picks for Stephon Gilmore to come in there and basically replace J.C. Horn after he had broken his foot early in the season. But for what reason? I don't know. I mean, they could have had a number 1 pick possibly instead of getting 6. I don't know why they tried to bring him in. But he's out because he was on an expiring contract. A loss that I would say is that they still have Sam Darnold. He was 2nd worst in EPA success percentage, and he was the worst in yards per attempt last year. After starting 3-0, he was still still horrible last year. So, I mean, they bring in Matt Corral. They get him in the 3rd round, which was definitely probably a steal to let him fall that far. I mean, a lot of people, he was there in the green room on opening night of the draft. People expected him to possibly go in the 1st round, if not the 1st, 2nd. He drops to the 3rd. Panthers snag him up, so I think that's good value for them. So we'll see what happens with that. Another loss was A.J. Bouye, who they had. But, I mean, he wasn't really doing much either. He had 1 forced fumble, 0 interceptions. Wasn't really contributing as far as turnovers or making any splash plays on this defense. Another thing is they lost draft picks. I mean, part of that's due to the Stephon Gilmore thing. They got Ike Ekwonu at 6, but it was almost around 100 picks before they had their 2nd pick. They didn't have anything in the 2nd round. They're late in the 3rd round. Or in the 3rd round, sorry. They get Matt Corral. So, I mean, it was a big gap. They lost a lot right there trying to bring in Gilmore, which made no sense last season. So, not many losses, but, I mean, they didn't have much to lose when they were so bad. Looking at their strengths, I've hit on a few of these things already, but their run game and their revamped O-line altogether. They got the guy from the Rams, Bozeman, Brady Christensen's probably the weak link in here. He's going into the second year looking to bounce back. They got Ike Ekwonu's number 6 pick. They got Taylor Moton, one of the best tackles in the league. I mean, there was a weakness last year, their O-line, but I mean, like I said, Taylor Moton was a top 10 offensive tackle, so I looked at much improvement between the running backs and the run game altogether. Um, Along the same lines, this running back room, you could argue, is the best in the league. I mean, they got McCaffrey, who is an MVP candidate when healthy. He's just got to stay on the field. I mean, he's been great, but ever since he got that contract, he's not done much at all as far as staying healthy and staying on the field. When he's on the field, he's great, but it's just staying on the field. Uh, Chuba Hubbard, they got him. Like I said, he had plenty of play time last year with McCaffrey being out. He's a solid backup running back. And then they bring in Dante Foreman, who also filled the gap for the Titans last year whenever Derrick Henry was injured. He outplayed Adrian Peterson and anyone else in that backfield. So with these 3 running backs, I mean, they look great for sure in the running back room. Definitely could see a lot of 2 running back formations with this team. I mean, especially with the issues at tight end. Their wide receiver group is not that great, so they're probably going to get a lot of these running backs on the field as much as possible. Another strength, still having Brian Burns. I mean, he's one of the top DNs in the league for sure. PFF had him as the 8th best defender, 8th best defender under age 25 in the league. And I mean, he'd probably get more hype if the team was doing anything worth talking about for sure. But he's definitely a great player. Intrigued to see what he does this year. Hopefully, has a more bounce back season. Is great. He's been great, but he could be even greater. Also, another thing is getting back a healthy J.C. Horn. He was amazing. I mean, this whole cornerback group last year from the draft, from J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, and Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, those 3 were amazing. So, I mean, look to see great things from J.C. Horn. I mean, his defense looks much better than what it did last year. So, getting to their weaknesses, and boy, do they have some weaknesses. Some very important ones, too. Mentioned it already, how bad Sam Darnold was with his passing statistics. He was worst or next to worst in almost every category. He had a 52.2 PFF grade, which was worse than any season in New York. And we know how bad he was in New York. So to come to Carolina, supposed to be in this new offense with Joe Brady, have some weapons, be able to succeed, he still was horrible. So, I mean, that's a very big weakness. Quarterback being the most important position, they're still not getting anything great from it. So we'll see what happens with Darnold. Another weakness for me, I've mentioned already, is the wide receivers. They got DJ Moore, a stud wide receiver, but then they have a bunch of mediocre at best players. Terrace Marshall didn't do much last year for sure, being a second round draft pick. Robbie Anderson fell off. Rashard Higgins, nothing to write home about. Zylstra, okay, cool. But I mean, they have nobody that's worth mentioning, really. I mean, and they didn't draft anyone. They got these free agents that they signed after the draft, but I mean, they have no one great in the wide receiver room. So that's another weakness for sure. I mean, I don't see Sam Darnold being able to put up great numbers with this offense, but we'll see what happens for sure. You pair that with the tight ends that I've already mentioned. Tommy Tremble is your number 1. I mean, unless he's the most improved player on this team, they're going to struggle again in the passing game. They have no one to pass through. They have DJ Moore, but I mean, he's going to get the CB1 every game. He's probably going to get safety help with the cornerback. He's going to be double teamed. I mean, if I'm any defense, I'm forcing them to run the ball, stack in the box. And I mean, I'm forcing them to get into someone else's hands besides DJ Moore. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as their overall team outlook, I mean, are they better than last year? Yeah, probably so. They made a few okay moves for sure. See what happens. Their wide receiver room and their tight end group I feel like is gonna limit them on offense. Yeah, they have Christian McCaffrey. Maybe he can open up that pass game for them. If he's breaking off big chunks of yardage, maybe it gives Sam Darnold more of a chance to do something in the pass game. But they do have Matt Corral, and I'm curious to see if and when he gets into the starting role. Sam Darnold is going to be horrible again. He's had 4 seasons, done nothing great. I don't expect anything different this year. I mean, they could bring in Matt Corral, who's more of a run threat, a dual threat quarterback. They don't have any passing lanes, open passes. He's able to scramble with his legs, maybe pick up some yardage, get more out of him than he could with Sam Darnold, who's not going to do anything but stand in the pocket, take a sack, throw an interception. So we'll see what happens with that. Their defense is improved, I do believe. Letting Gilmore probably wasn't playing to the best of his ability. He had no reason to play. They weren't winning any games. Bringing in Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin back to his position, playing down in the box a little more. Still got Shaq Thompson. Brought in Ioannidis, can be a solid player for him. Brian Burns could be a great player for sure. J.C. Horn, one of the best young cornerbacks in the league, and can prove it this season. So we'll see what happens, but let's get into the Vegas predictions and discuss their schedule and break down the schedule and discuss wins and losses this year. So Vegas has them at a projected 6 wins, which is not even the worst in the division. I believe the Falcons are at 5.5. So they're kind of what and what as far as who's going to have the fewest wins according to Vegas. So week 1, they have a home opener against the Browns. I mean, I don't care who's at quarterback. Not enough has changed for the Panthers for them to get the win. The Browns' defense is just too amazing for the Panthers to put up any points on them. So I don't expect anything great at all from them. Getting into week 2, they go to the Giants. The Giants, they brought in Dayball to be their their coach. He's supposed to be the quarterback guru. He did what he did with Josh Allen, so they're hoping he can do something like that with Daniel Jones. They didn't give him the 5th-year extension. I feel like it may be a rough start. They're getting into a new offensive system. The Panthers, they know their offense, even though they're not great. But I feel like this defense can carry them to the win here against Daniel Jones and mediocre Saquon Barkley. I mean, honestly, I'm hoping for Matt Corral to start at this point. Does he win the job during training camp? I would hope so. I would love to see it. I would love to see Matt Corral get the starting job, carry this team, do more than what Sam Darnold could ever do, which is not much. So, I mean, the bar is very low, so we'll see what happens. Week 3, they play the Saints at home. Jameis is probably back if he's not starting week 1. I mean, this Saints team is just too much for them. They have too many weapons on offense and defense. Panthers are not getting this win for sure. Cardinals week 4. Nook is still out due to the suspension. They brought in Hollywood Brown. Between Kyler, Hollywood Brown, and James Conner, they can score 17 points, I would believe. And 17 is probably more than enough for the Panthers to be able to score, to keep pace with them as far as on the offensive end. So now we're looking at 1-3. They're going into week 5. They play the Niners. Another home game. They have 3 straight home games. They need to get the wins in these home games early in the season. But the Niners, they were in the NFC Championship last year. It looks like Debo is probably going to be back in San Francisco. Their key weapon. They're probably going to use him a little differently to keep him happy, not as much out of the backfield. But, I mean, they were an NFC Championship team for a reason last year. And I don't think it matters against the Panthers who's starting as far as whether it's Jimmy G, who may still get traded or released, cut, or Trey Lance. The Panthers are not winning this game. So now we're looking at 1-4. 1-4 going into week 6. And now they play the Rams. They have a horrible schedule to begin the season. I mean, look at these teams. The Browns, great defense. Giants, okay. Saints, amazing defense. Cardinals, always great at the beginning of the season. Niners, NFC Championship. Rams, Super Bowl champions. Bucks, Tom Brady. Good luck. I mean, the Rams are too heavy of a favorite here. There's no way the Panthers win this game. It's Super Bowl hangover or not, week 6, they're not getting the win in LA. Follow that up with the Bucks at home. TB12's on a mission. He's going to try to demolish every weak opponent he can. He's trying to get that number 1 seed, get that bye, which for what could be his last year. Or it could be one of his last 5 years. Who knows? But the Panthers are not getting the win. So now we're going into week 8, and you're Carolina. You're 1-6. Sam Darnold, if he's been the starting quarterback, obviously has not done enough for you. He's not carrying you to any wins. You got 1 win through 7 weeks. So for me, I feel like this is the point where Matt Corral could get that starting job. They're done with Sam Darnold. The Sam Darnold experiment failed. They're through with him. They want to see what they have in the future. Let's go ahead and get Matt Corral some reps, get him in at the Falcons, a good team to get him started against. The Falcons are in a rebuild mode. They could be playing for the number one pick this year. They're going to see what they have in Desmond Ridder. It could be the first game for both of them, Ridder versus Corral for sure. But I feel like Corral's going to come in. They're going to be hyped. They're going to get the win against the Falcons. Matt Corral being in there is going to give him a new outlook on offense. He's going to be able to scramble, like I mentioned earlier, do much more than Sam Darnold could ever do as long as he can hold on to the ball and not turn it over. Follow that up. They didn't go to the Bengals. The Bengals made it to the Super Bowl, and all they did was improve. They improved the team, even after making it to the Super Bowl. Improved that offensive line, which was what their issue was. And Joe Burrow, Matt Corral may do great his first start, but I feel like he'll get the loss here. So now we're 2-7 going into Week 10. They had the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Falcons could be in complete rebuild mode at this point, but the Panthers could be also. Thursday Night Football, home game. They're kind of competing against the Falcons. I know they're competing against everyone in the NFL, but the Falcons are probably their team that's on that same level with them, trying to rebuild. So the Panthers have something to prove here. I think they get the season sweep against the Falcons. Go get 2 wins within the division right there. Week 11, they do have a little break having that Thursday Night Football game, but they do play the Ravens at Baltimore. Lamar is back. He's healthy. He's probably going to be an MVP candidate. He's got J.K. Dobbins back. He's got all his cornerbacks back. There's no way the Panthers get the win here. Week 12, they play they play at home in Carolina against the Broncos. I personally feel Russell Wilson is on the decline of his career. People are saying, he didn't have anything really to play for. But a lot of his ability is based on him being able to scramble out of the pocket, being that he's so short. And now he's getting older. I feel like that could be a limitation for him. And even though I think this may be a close game, I don't think the Panthers can win it. So now they're in the bye, Week 13. All the NFC South teams have late byes. They have 2 teams having Week 14 byes. So, it's just a weird setup for sure. But going into the bye, they're 3-9. Not looking great. They're looking to build toward the future. And, if Corral hadn't already taken the starting position, which I don't know why he wouldn't after they've racked up 5 straight losses and being this horrible, this is the perfect time at the Seahawks, who is another horrible team. Drew Lock, Geno Smith, doesn't matter. That team's going to be horrible. They play at the Seahawks. I think Corral can come in and definitely get the win for sure. Then they play the Steelers at home. I don't personally feel like Kenny Pickett was the best quarterback in this draft. They took him at 20. Mitch Trubisky, he may be solid, but I don't think they're good enough to come into Carolina and get the win. They've lost players on defense as well. I feel like Carolina may actually get their first win streak of the season here. Follow that up Week 16 with the Lions. It's a home game, but the Lions, they're talked about as amongst everyone. They have great weapons. They drafted Jamison Williams. Their defense is looking better. Dan Campbell has the whole team hyped up the whole season. They're going to try to be close to that playoff push. They started off horrible last year, but I could see them easily getting 7 wins this year, if not more. And this would be one of them. So the Panthers take the L there. And then they finish the season, Bucks and Saints. At this point, they're out of the playoffs. They're going to try to get the morale high. Matt Rule may be out the door at this point. Doesn't matter. I don't think they're beating the Bucks or the Saints whenever they're both away games. There's no way they're going to get the win. Bucks playing for the number 1 seed at this point. Saints are probably playing for a wild card berth at this point. So, they're not getting the win on either one of these. So I have them finishing the season 5-12. We can't expect much from them. 5-12. It's not the best. Same record as last year, but maybe they're building towards the future. We'll see. Matt Rule's probably out the door. But we'll see what happens. They can flip a few of these L's into W's, or it could be worse than this. I don't expect a lot from this team. So getting into their top position players, with each episode I try to go through who can be a top 5 player in that position, who can be a top 10. As far as top 5, they got Brian Burns. He could easily be a top 5 player at the DN position. We've seen what he can do. He can bounce back, be a top 5 player, no surprise at all. Christian McCaffrey, easily another top 5 player if he's healthy. But he's got to stay healthy. He's had the injury history the last 2 years. So health is a key factor for him being top 5 running back. DJ Moore, he would be a top 5 wide receiver if he had a competent quarterback. So he'll probably be top 10. But if Corral can come in there and do something crazy, he'd definitely be a top 5. But top 10 for sure. Other top 10 players, can Ike Ekwonu come in and be a top 10 tackle? I mean, we've seen crazier things. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either way. Top 15 for sure. Could it be top 10? Yeah, we'll see what happens. But top 10 is definitely on the table. J.C. Horn, he was great in his first 6 to 8 weeks he played before he got injured. So him being a top 10 quarterback wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And then Taylor Moton again. I mean, he's been top 10 already. Wouldn't surprise me if he's top 10 again this season. MVP candidates and most improved players. Christian McCaffrey, but he's probably going to be injured. I mean, I don't expect a lot whenever injury is a key factor and the team's not going to be any good. So they have no MVP candidates. Most improved, who I want to see most improved is C.J. Henderson. He was a first-round pick in Jacksonville. The Urban Meyer debacle ended up getting him traded. So I want to see him come back, have this improved defense around him. You know, maybe he can play more to himself and be a better player. If he could be a top 25, top 30 cornerback in the league, that would be amazing for him. That would be a greatly improved season. So I want to see him improve, and that would do wonders for the Carolina Panthers in their future for sure. Drop-off candidate, we saw it last year, but I feel like it's just going to continue. At times, I feel like he's checked out once he got that contract. But it's Robbie Anderson. He's too worried about trying to figure out if the mascot is a panther or a bear. So he's not real sure what's going on the field, off the field. I feel like this could be another regression year for him, especially with the quarterbacks they have. Hoping for better, but he's definitely my drop-off candidate if I had to choose one. And then finally, the most intriguing thing with this team is when is Corral going to get the starts? We know it's coming. When is it coming, though? We know it's going to happen. But when is it going to happen is the question. Is it before the bye week? We hope so. I mean, it could be as early as week 8 for sure, especially if the Panthers are likely to get a lot of losses against these great teams. But Matt Rule has to do something to try to prove that he's still the coach. So he's definitely probably leaning on the fence of getting Matt Corral in and showing that he has some opportunity to continue coaching this team if he can get some wins with Matt Corral under center. Another intriguing thing is I hope they stay away from the Jimmy G and Baker speculations that they were part of. I mean, move on from Darnold. Keep Matt Corral in there, get him some reps. And you don't want to bring in Jimmy G or Baker. I mean, I don't feel like they're your quarterbacks of the future. They're improvements, but I mean, you're trying to build for the future. You're not trying to win now. So stay away from that. And one last thing is that they drafted, can't really see it right here, but right there, they got Kalen Barnes from Baylor with the 242nd pick, which was intriguing to me because he allowed just 21 catches last year, which was the fewest among Big 12 defenders or cornerbacks with 300 snaps. So I'm curious to see if he gets any playing time. I mean, this defense, he could get some playing time for sure. I mean, we'll see what happens, but that's another intriguing thing that I want to see is how many snaps is he going to get this year in this Panthers defense. So, yeah, that's it for the Panthers this year. You know, it may be a long season for Carolina fans, but hope to see some improvement for sure. No regression. Maybe get Matt Rule out the door. Ben McAdoo, get him out the door as well. You know, just completely rebuild this team, reset it, see what we can do for the future. But I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please, if you have time, leave a comment. Let me know what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. Hit that like button, and for sure hit that subscribe button so you can catch up on every breakdown of every team we have left for the rest of the season. We're only through 8 teams. We still got 24 left. We're doing conference division recaps. We're going to go through the conference recaps. We're going to do Super Bowl predictions, everything. You can name it. Top players, top wide receivers, top position players all throughout. But yeah, so with that said, hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.